Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm doing a video for the Paint Couture creative team. For my project today, I'm going to be using this frame that I thrifted for just $2. I really liked the blank canvas that it presented. I am going to be taking out the glass, however, and I am actually going to be keeping the mat, working with the mat, so I'm going to carefully take off that interior image there that has the measurements, and then I'm going to be using Candlelight mineral paint on the actual backing of the frame. This is where we are going to be adding our design. So I'm going to do 2 coats of this, and this paint has a built-in sealer as well. While my paint is drying, I'm going to focus on the mat of the frame. I'm using Embossing Medium and also this stencil that I had in my stash. I'm going to lay the stencil down and then use a palette knife to spread the Embossing Medium over the stencil. I've tried to center it best I can, and I'm not going all the way to the right hand corner, as you can see there, because I am going to be adding this around the entire frame, and I want it to look a bit more seamless rather than just sort of cutting off the design. I want it to look like it sort of continues around the frame mat board there. And I am being careful not to have too much product on my palette knife. I don't want to get bleeding underneath it if I can help it. I'm then going to gently lift that stencil up to reveal the pattern, and then I'm going to carefully remove the excess from around the outside of the frame. I'm then going to be using the embossing medium on the other side. I want to give the design I just did a little bit of time to dry. I'll also use a hairdryer to speed up that process as well. And then I'm going to start working on the other side, the narrower, shorter sides of the frame there. So I just definitely have to make sure that I have the embossing medium on the other sections dry before moving on to the next one so that I don't smudge it. As you can see, I have finished the last section, so I'm going to carefully remove the excess from there, and then I did use a hairdryer to dry that off really well. I'm then using Queen's Court mineral paint. I'm going to be painting 1 coat over the top of the embossed details, and I am keeping in mind the fact that the mat board is just cardstock, and I don't want to overdo it with how many products I put on it. I don't want it to become warped or start having any sort of wrinkling or anything like that. So I'm just going to do 1 coat. I don't need it to have full coverage. I'm going for a bit of a vintage look, and I'll be layering some other products over the top of it later. So I'm then going to have a little look here at how the mat board is going to sit, and then I'm using this transfer from Redesign. This is the Aviary Elegance transfer, and I really love this bird, but I know it's not going to fit perfectly, so I'm just having a look at exactly what's going to be visible, and then I am going to have a look at how I can adapt it. So I'm going to cut off that larger beautiful flower. I really like this one, so I'm going to cut it off and reposition it later, and then I'm also going to cut off the extra little fern bit down the bottom and use that on another craft. I really wanted to get the position right, so I'm holding the transfer in place, pulling back the backing sheet and then sliding it completely off. Doing it that way meant that I was guaranteed to have it in the exact position that I wanted it to go. I'm going to start rubbing and lifting the plastic of the transfer as I go until I have the entire design down, and transfers do love a sealed surface, and the mineral paint that we used has that built in, so it went on really easily. I am then going to position that flower up the top there and repeat the same process. I think this composition just looked better. I'm definitely glad that I repositioned that flower. I'm then going to seal that using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Gloss. So this is going to protect the transfer, and it's going to give it a nice finish. Next, when that was dry, I took out some tacky glue and I'm going to be adding that to the back of my cardstock there. I really wanted to use something that was appropriate to use with cardboard and paper just to make sure I didn't oversaturate it. I'm going to add a decent amount on there, especially focusing on the edges so that I can make sure that it will all stick down really well. And then I'm going to position it over the top of our artwork there. When the glue was dry, I took out Paint Couture's Light Brown Sugar Antiquing Glaze. I'm going to begin by adding it over the top of the center artwork. I'm definitely going for a vintage look here, and adding the glaze is a perfect way to achieve that. So I'm adding it to the center. I'm also adding a little bit, a lot less to the outside, swirling my brush to catch the stenciled embossed design there. And I'm doing this to blend the two designs together a bit more. And as I said, I want this to have a vintage look to it. So I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to be using a wet wipe to dab away the product. Dabbing away at it gives it more of an aged finish. It also leaves little droplets which can look like age spots, and this is going to tone the darkness down as well. I set that to the side to dry, and then I used Paint Couture's Italian Ivory Rapid Casting Resin. I'm also going to be using this new mold by Redesign. This is the Bloom of Eternity mold, and I'm also using the Floral chain mold as well. I'm going to be pouring out equal parts step 1 and step 2 into a silicone cup, and then I'm going to stir it really well for about 30 to 40 seconds. I do have gloves on, and I'm using it in a well ventilated area. It's also a good idea to put a mat or something underneath your surface as well. So once I have finished combining that, I am going to start pouring it, and I wasn't exactly sure what ones I was going to use, so I poured resin into a few different designs on the Bloom of Eternity mold on the left, but I am going to add resin to all of the castings on the Floral chain mold, and I was a little bit heavy-handed today. I think that these molds are just so beautiful and delicate that it's a little bit hard not to overfill them, so I do have my stir stick there so that I can spread it out. Because it is a lot easier to tidy up any of the excess resin once it's dry if it's thin. So I'm going to keep pouring that out. I did spread the resin out because, as you can see, I did get some excess, but as you can see here, I'm able to really easily pull it off. Just make sure you do that pretty soon after you take them out. I'm going to start adding my E6000 glue to the back of my castings there, and I'm going to glue them to the frame. Once I finished gluing everything down, I did then use a wet wipe to tidy up any excess glue. I made sure that everything was completely dry, and then I used Paint Couture's Pitch Black Chalk Paint. I'm going to be dabbing and stippling that over the top of the entire frame, and I'm going in quite heavy. By using the dabbing and stippling motion, I am going to be able to cover up any of the imperfections of the castings where I overpoured and wasn't able to pull the excess back. And it's also going to create that sort of textured vintage frame look. So I'm applying this down because I want to use a metallic over the top of it. I did think I was going to use white, but I ended up changing my mind. So I'm going to be using bronze Lux Metallic over the top of my dry pitch black chalk paint, and I'm applying it in the exact same way that I applied the chalk paint. I'm dabbing and stippling it, and I really love that when you add black underneath this, that it really deepens the tone. It gives it quite a aged and antiqued look. And I'm happy for some of that black to peek through because that's just going to add to the vintage finish. So I only ended up doing one coat of this. Once that was dry, it was time to add the artwork to the frame. And here's a look at our finished artwork. I love how this turned out, and I hope it's inspired you to start transforming some of the frames that you have in your stash. Let me know what you think of today's project in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, we would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and if you haven't already, we would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the videos from the Paint Couture creative team. Thanks for watching.